How are you feeling? I hope good. Oh, sorry, you wanted to join in already?
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just want to check it's working. So
yeah,
check.
the mic is working. Guys, Bitcoin debate. It's lovely to be here for a second day. Thanks very much to all the organizers for getting this ready. It's amazing. Big pleasure. My name is Przemek. I'm a community manager at Cashify. Also, I'm a Web3 advisor at Fuel. And yeah, we do have an interesting debate ahead of us. I think one of the many Bitcoin debates. Today we're gonna cover Bitcoin and banks. I want to start with a short intro from our great guests. If you can give us a 10-second brief intro about yourselves, and then we're gonna get on with the questions.
Hi, greetings everyone. My name is Filip Pawczyński. I'm a co-founder of Degen House, but I'm also the chairman of Polish Bitcoin Association, vice chairman of Polish Blockchain Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the market from last 12 years. In 2013, I produced Miner, and right now I'm helping projects, mostly institutional clients, to enter to the crypto space.
Hey all, it's a big pleasure to be here in Poland again. My name is Alex Belov. I'm in crypto since 2017. I started my way in crypto from crypto mining industry. Then I moved to media, launched our own crypto media named Coins Telegram. First media about Telegram ecosystem. And I'm also doing documentary films, and thank you so much the organizers for the opportunity to screen our documentary film with Vitalik Buterin here on this stage yesterday. So yeah, I anticipate great discussion today.
Thank you. Hello everyone. My name is Dimitris Karoukis. I'm an economist turned developer, and right now I'm the blockchain expert at BITmarkets. You saw our CEO before doing the presentation, so I'm going to be in this panel today to discuss about the future of Bitcoin.
Dobrý deň, bratia, sestry z Polska. Tomáš, tu ďakujem panelisti, že našli čas. Thank you again, 10 plus years in Bitcoin, and starting from sort of essentially getting free assets to spending them, to saving them, and 4 years building products at Kraken, and last 2 years experimenting with ordinals and just different paths that Bitcoin allows us to play with. And here I'm very privileged to speak on the potential Bitcoin might have in the future.
Great, guys. Thank you. Opening question to all of you. Guys, what does Bitcoin offer that banks are so scared of? What is it? Can start from the...
I would say they're not really scared. I think the private banks are scared of the national banks and the CBDCs that we just had the presentation about briefly, right? I mean, the Swiss banks are adopting it, the American banks are adopting it. Well, they killed the Silvergate Bank, but I think the private banking is pretty excited about Bitcoin. The central banks, like the European one, maybe not. I mean, they pushed the Czech one to not adopt, but yesterday the governor of Czech Bank decided maybe a middle finger and just going to go ahead with it. So let's see, interesting development.
Yep.
I think they are scared anyway because banks are very bureaucratic structures, and the main reason why they are scared is that Bitcoin is unconfiscatable asset. So you can transact it and cross borders just having your private phrase inside of your head, and nobody can control it. This is the main feature of Bitcoin, which differs it from all other assets, all classes of assets. That's why, yeah, traditional finance is scared of BTC, but anyway, they should embrace it, and I think it's what we are going to discuss.
It's an advantage, but also its biggest problem of Bitcoin, because the custody of it for an individual is pain in the ass, and that's why the private banking actually has a tremendous opportunity to take care of it.
Yeah, so I'm more like with the Tomas here. Of course, I see the banks are scared. For example, our Polish bank is very scared. But still, there is an adoption. There is the banks who work with it. There is the wise banks who are using the technology for the needs of their clients, because this is what they actually do in Switzerland. The clients just demand that they want to have that kind of access to that kind of assets. So right now we have a products and they're working from the last 5-8 years, and they are working properly in Switzerland. And this is one of the best example about the private and about consumer-wise. But about the national banks, from my opinion, when I am talking with the banks, for example, like here the Polish bank, they just don't understand it. This is still about the education. It's that simple, It's like we started Polish Bitcoin Association in 2013 because of the education and the needs in the education, even in the, our research centers in Poland and some professors, they just don't have idea what they was talking about. So we was there to clarification, and it's still, the work is not done, and it's still in progress because the people who are decided, they are changing all the time. So you need to do mostly your work once again and once again. Of course, we all are early for in the meanings of the payments. The crypto assets are very early, even if it's like 10 or 15 years in the business. For regular adoption and for regular usage, it's still early. So we will go with the adoption. We need to work on the education and the adoption, and it will be good. Also with the banks, because they really just don't understand it right now.
Could I add something? So,
Sure.
so the question of whether a central bank should incorporate some Bitcoin holding in its portfolio, let's say, is not new in the blockchain world. There's actually a paper from 2015 where they were discussing about the Central Bank of Barbados, I think, where they did some analysis about how much what percentage of its portfolio should be allocated to BTC versus other currencies, let's say. And there were results that were like, if it's between 0.01 and 0.1% of the portfolio, or maybe a bit higher, then the volatility change is not really too risky. And imagine that this was before all the ups and downs that we saw in this journey, the 15-year journey, 16-year journey that we have BTC with us. So essentially, central banks would be interested in adding it now because it has been shown with data that it's kind of been held as a safe, like as an asset to hedge against volatile markets and volatile political situations in general. So the central banks have an incentive to hold it, but maybe they are kind of afraid about it because we see that that there is a growing debt in the OECD countries. It right now has surpassed 100 trillion. So maybe the people would, if they have an alternative currency system, maybe they would not want to contribute to this debt repayment of the OECD after all. So anyway, I think this is like maybe the double-edged sword of the central bank.
I mean, it scares them, right? I mean, it undermines their fundamental existence. Their currency, for example, Polish zloty, if they would point and try to adopt Bitcoin, then the debt obligations and the holders of the sort of projected returns on the Polish zloty would automatically be scared. So it's a fundamental decision, but ultimately, over time, the free market and the needle of it will point them. And as we see with Czech Republic yesterday, and if they are willing to sort of pursue this path, we should encourage and try to see what we can get out of it. But fundamentally, it scares me nonetheless, because it should be the individual yourself, every single one of you in this crowd, to adopt Bitcoin before the central bank does. And ultimately, if they decide so, why do we even have a central bank? We are better banks.
Yeah, central banks should be extremely scared. I traveled to El Salvador and I visited Honduras. There are some economies, absolutely peer-to-peer. They use just Bitcoin. They don't need any banks. They just pay throughout their ecosystem with BTC, producing some goods. So it's a completely different situation. And yeah, central banks should be very scared. Unless they embrace Bitcoin and start to operate with it, they are going to be useless.
Definitely. I think we can all agree here. Guys, but what banks are saying, if we look at what they're saying, so we've discussed central banks. We've discussed an issue with commercial banks, and they tend to operate on a different basis. The regulations are different because, well, it depends how serious an institution like a big bank is. Commercial banks are usually smaller, you can say. So we know that banks are saying sometimes, look, we basically cannot offer you Bitcoin in any shape. It's not really properly regulated yet. There are issues, it's still too volatile. There are environmental issues as well, important for many institutions. Do you think that's changing now? Is it going to change anytime soon? What can we expect?
I provide just example of Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan, I think was of the bank that hated Bitcoin, but since the administration changed, suddenly their stance changed too. So we know Operation Checkpoint in the choke point in the United States have been sort of pressing everyone to speak a line with the democratic principles of the existing party. But now with Donald Trump's presidency, there is a massive swing towards it. Yeah, we can adopt, we can do, we'll build, but each of you probably here has a savings or some form of a pension scheme account, and BlackRock has already added Bitcoin to a conservative portfolio, so probably every one of you is holding it nonetheless, and you can buy it within the bank app.
You know, so I just want to start with it, that this depends what kind of banks we are talking about. And most of the stuff, it's about the regulation. So that we have states, yeah, totally different approach. We can see this is totally different politics and it's working. You know, Texas with the internal regulation, for example, about the mining, it's one of the best example how if you really want to regulate something that is really prosperous for the state, you can do that. And this is one of the greatest example. But there was tremendous work from the groups lobbying there to work with the local authorities and all that stuff. So this is complicated, but super nice example. In Switzerland, we was talking about in Germany, because of the MiCA, it's totally different. And in Poland, we have also different situation. Maybe I will talk about that because I have a little bit closer to it. So in Poland, for example, we don't have right now the regulation. MiCA wasn't absorbed by the proper regulatory body to our Polish law. So we have sort of the Wild West right now. But it's good for the community, for the ecosystem. But for the government, they are like just a couple months after the whole United Europe. And this is one of the examples where the banks are really not able to do anything right now, even if they want in Poland, because we don't have the proper regulation. So they see, of course, how the market is growing, how the situation is going in Germany, for example. It is very close. But on the other side, they are mostly state-owned, mostly in some part. So they really rely on the regulation, on the national Polish bank, and on the government, because they are state-owned. So it really depends on what country, what bank on the end we are talking about. It's very complicated right now. But in Poland, for example, of course, like every financial business, they're seeing the profits, they're seeing the exchanges and the payment stuff. They are young, very good, prosperous people there. So it's, of course, depend on what kind of level you are talking about. But they are doing the work, they're delivering the papers, they are ready to do that. But on one side, the regulation, on the other side, of course, the regulation inside the organization. This is always trouble.
So off topic, are we going to learn from the United States and what they accomplished, what they managed to do in the last quarter? I mean, did they really speed up since the change of presidential administration? They've done so much.
From data, it was 7 to 10% voters, and many individuals, it was a single voting issue. So if we are talking about politics in between the European continent, it will be one of the arguments to have. And we already see Czech Republic adopting that ideology, and even the broader West using Bitcoin as a vehicle of gathering attention. So the needles will move.
Yeah, even though Christine Lagarde is very obviously anti-crypto, I think there is no way. So Europe should start doing something with crypto. You know, it was not surprising even 5 years that Swiss banks used crypto. But when we hear that second largest bank of Spain, BBVA, started to offer crypto services to its clients, like it's a huge step for crypto adoption in Europe. And I'm surprised that Spain is making such a big steps, not other countries which are much better in tech. So let's see, but there is no other way because crypto obviously is conquering the world, adoption is growing. In UAE also, like I have some banking accounts in UAE and the banks are offering crypto services already for several years. So yeah, Europe should move and move fast.
Thank you. No, I think we can all agree on this, guys. Question number 3. I wanted to come back. Oh, sorry.
Before you go to question number 3,
yeah.
I was actually, because nobody addressed the environmental issue here, and I actually had a couple of interesting arguments to make there. Okay, so I read recently actually a couple of papers, 2024, 2025. So they essentially formulate the argument that mining, you know, even though it's literally like a waste of energy, you know, like literally, it can be used actually as a vehicle for a more renewable energy adoption. So this argument goes like this. So when you want to create like a solar panel farm or something, you essentially produce, you have the initial investment and then produce energy, which if you are not connected to the grid, or even if you are connected to the grid, but there is no demand for it, you know, you essentially waste this energy. So these papers formulate the argument that if you, instead of just throwing away the excess energy, you could put it into mining of Bitcoin, you know, then you could have out of waste essentially something that could be profitable for you. And this is an interesting argument. This was actually one of the papers was talking especially about the Texas issue because my previous co-panelist here talked about it. In Texas, they actually, I think that they saved something like 18 billion out of fossil fuel infrastructure that they would need to build, that they did not build after all because the miners were an efficient demand response mechanism. You know?
I was there just 2 weeks ago, and now they are implementing growth in the energy sector. So everyone in the Texas State Authority actually realizes that demand response system is a massive success, and they will be advancing forward.
Yeah. So essentially, yes, we took from an inefficiency, essentially something that could, if we all agree that renewable energy is something that everybody should pursue, you know, like modern society should pursue, then I think. You know, we have achieved from a proxy point, we can create something interesting there. We can increase adoption of this.
I mean, structurally over time, we saw the cheapest forms of energy will be sought after by Bitcoin miners, and the cheapest forms of energy are usually the most renewable or sustainably based, and obviously nuclear and sources of the ground, geothermal, and yeah, I mean, there is also a report, there is a foundation in the US who has like around 50% of the Bitcoin mining is currently, quote unquote, sustainable to push for these arguments in the state authority.
I just wanted to add that, you know, generally this argument concerning the environmental threat is very weak because Bitcoin uses power, but banks are using much more power than Bitcoin to maintain their data centers. So they use crazy amount of power and much more than Bitcoin uses, and their environmental threat is much bigger. So what is the option? Why should we blame Bitcoin in being not green? I think it's a very weak argument, and Greta cannot stop us for sure.
Yeah, especially that about the more than 50%, I think right now it's about the 70, it's from green sources, renewable energy, most of them. So it's like Tomas mentioned, we will always try to search the cheapest possible energy. And right now, there is so many small hydroelectric high mountains localization when you have a mining operation in China and they then even not connected to any grid because they have little transformator with the current of the natural river and they have free electricity. That it's only investigation in the pump stations. So this is a situation that is all over the world because that's its needs. And of course, from our consumer needs, we have like option to get out the heat energy and heat our house. It's not a problem right now. You can buy that kind of set. Of course, you will need to have some years to get back with the investigation. But if you will stay the difference in Bitcoin, in 4 years, you will be always happy.
Just to add, it's impossible to, as an individual, to mine profitably. It's like you are competing with a market that is above and beyond your capacity. But there is an open source device called BITmarkets. You can actually melt it, and it just runs one chip of the Bitmain S19, and you are participating in lottery that the government cannot tax. And ultimately, as we are touched upon, the civilization growth is correlated with the energy consumption. So don't be afraid and plug another miner in and let's just go forward to the prosperity in the future we want to see.
Yeah, that solo mining lottery topic, it's also nice stuff. Of course,
government cannot tax.
Yeah, it's very rare, but in general it's there, you can see all the blocks. There was a couple blocks by the solo mining, and it was a little bit bigger than BitX, but in general you have the better odds in the normal national lottery if you're doing that. We was counting that, so for sure. This is one of the arguments that I always use, and of course we also need to remember what we are achieving here, because the Bitcoin is not using energy for nothing. It's consuming energy for the proof of work. And this is what's making the currency value this much. Because the matter of the value, it's in reality how we can all understand in used electric energy. And it's not also the new idea, because in 50s, Ford think about that. Yeah, he was understanding that for his usage for the production, he's using so much energy that the energy in the future will be the currency, will be the option how we measure how we are developed. And this is also not something new. This is something that we all just need to connect the dots.
Gold was, in a way, a form of energy too, right? You had to expense energy to get it out of the ground. We just don't know how much gold is around in the earth and the whole universe, but Bitcoin is probably capped as a maximum supply, predictable inflation. We are past 87%, if I'm not mistaken, and next 100 years is only 10% left to be mined, so we will see probably a massive hash war. And the best war is a hash war. I think the more resources spent in mining over actual sort of warfare and the existing ecosystems is peace and prosperity via hash wars.
Yeah, if you think about the Bitcoin like a energy-based currency, you will understand why it uses energy to be more secure. And on the basics, it's available for all of us. Not that super available like before, like 10 years ago, but still, you can just try to build it.
To be honest, if you calculate mining, you will see that the energy consumption is not a big spend. So it's just like 10 or 15% in terms of mining cost or production of 1 BTC. So energy consumption actually is not like a really big cost for production.
Okay, guys, change of subject. Let's move on. Let's come back to CBDCs. We've mentioned them briefly. We had a nice talk maybe half an hour ago. What I wanted to ask you, because we know that Bitcoin's position in the financial world, as we know it, as we feel it, is quite strong thanks to spot ETFs that we got, more institutional impact, a big change in political influences that are more positive now. Looking at the banks, do you think they will still pursue their idea of issuing CBDCs if they are allowed to do so? What's your opinion on that?
Should I start? Do you want to start, please?
Yeah, I made the interview with Vice President of El Salvador, and I asked him if you want to make your own CBDC in El Salvador. He said, never. We are fully Bitcoin-oriented country, no CBDCs at all. But some countries for sure are going to do it, and they want to control their money supply. Let's see, CBDCs for sure are going to be used in Europe, I guess, and it is what we have to, it's like, in my opinion, a threat for crypto community, but from another hand, it's a kind of like another step in adoption, because normies can start from CBDCs and then move to real crypto.
It's like, in my opinion, right now there is the position that CBDC, it's like stable coin, but it's very bad because of the control and centralization and all the different stuff. You know, why stable coins are so successful? Because we all understand, or we are close to understand, the value of dollar. It's all about that. So in my opinion right now, I still don't know how it will be CBDC, because they have many crazy ideas, but we have a Bitcoin and it will be here. So it's not my problem at some point. But on the end, from the consumer stuff, banks, in my opinion, as soon as possible, it's better for everybody, but you know, it will be like they will want. They will issue some kind of stable coin to local currency and back it with maybe gold, maybe different stuff, but we will need some kind of digital emanation of the things that we know. You know? It's like I'm working many years that the people will understand that one Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin or 100 million Satoshis. But till we will be counting, we will be using stable coins and counting sometimes, you know, value Bitcoin to dollars and to local fiats, we will need like a population, that kind of stuff. So banks should go in that way, and it will be eventually in some point that they will just issue something not like CBDC, so totally controlled, but something that it will be connected with the value, but on the ideas of the digital open economy. So, you know, stable coins, for examples.
The challenge is the lines kind of blurred between the USDT-like stable coin and the CBDC. Sure, I was in Brazil a month ago. PIX system is pretty much a perfect example of a working CBDC, but the USDT and the success of its penetration across the different multinational consortium and the expansion of the monetary base of US dollar, and the fact that they can just essentially freeze, stop via construct and contracts, except probably on liquid network and very much on the Taproot Assets protocol, the universe can prevent that, is a frightening or sort of a worrying aspect of where it can all go. So be mindful, and I'm not sure if any of you study, there's a concept called Bitcoin dollar, and the US government loves USDT because it expands its power across boundaries and just sort of allows them to continuously grow with their sort of printing of debt, and they love it. And the more Bitcoin gets adopted, the more the stablecoins sort of penetrate our existing reality, the more the US enterprise gets bigger, and that as like a principled individual isn't something I support.
Thank you. Would you like to add something?
Actually, regarding the CBDC stablecoin debate, I actually so maybe a bank could offer something that the companies that produce stablecoins or like non-profits that produce stablecoins could offer. It could offer something like legally binding, how to say, proof of reserve or something, you know, because it needs essentially to be pegged to something, you know. So there is always the moral hazard, you know, to essentially use this something before everybody starts to exchange it, you know, at the end. So maybe CBDCs could offer something like this, but other than that, I don't think that their value could be extended more than that to society, probably. Like everybody would love to for 2008 to not happen again, and for people to not need to trust a bank handle its assets, to keep their money safe, let's say. Yeah, towards that goal, we have these two competing systems. Who knows?
Let's make banks obsolete. It's just 12 words.
Yeah.
But we need to do that together because it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, we need to make multi-signature systems more accessible. You, your family, you, your private banker friend, 3 out of 5 out of the 7, 7 out of 15, each on top of it, running private systems. We can do that today.
Maybe let's ask about it. Okay, so how many of you have a Bitcoin wallet right now on the mobile phone? So you see what I'm talking about. Lightning Network. And it's much more easier and more confident to use.
What about multi-signature wallets? How many of you are using multi-signature wallets? Okay, a lot of room to grow.
I actually like using Xiaomi secret sharing.
So this is about the adoption, yeah? We're
This is
still
adoption,
early,
yeah.
you will need to work, all of us, and this is what Tomas mentioned. If you have your family, your friends, all of them, you should to try to orange pill them, because if not, they will get back a little bit years later and will have, issue to you that you don't tell them. It's classic. So everybody should to know, be aware, and try to be orange pilled, because it's very easy to get the wallet, and you are in. You can just jump to it and not think more about some nasty stuff about the taxes and all the different stuff.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we've got less than 10 minutes for our closing question, which I wanted to ask all of you again. Guys, what will be Bitcoin's position in the whole financial world in the next, let's say, decade? And further, if we can think about next 20 years, that's absolutely fine. Is it only going to be like edge against inflation? Maybe some people say, hope it will become a world reserve currency. Is it possible? What do you think?
Digital gold, that's it.
Satoshi said it's a peer-to-peer digital cash, and I think it's way better for that use case. Sure, it stores value, but work and proofs of work shall be fundamental to each of us. I mean, I'm very worried next few years ahead of us. I think essentially the concept of user ownership and self-custody is diminishing with the entrance of BlackRocks and the national banks. Like, yes, we can celebrate the Czech National Bank adopting Bitcoin, but it's the antigone, the opposite of individual's custody. So yes, you will have it in your portfolio, wonderful. You will probably get the returns out of it, beautiful. But the idea is that you can sort of consort self-validation, self-ownership. And over the last 6-7 years, I've been essentially trying to evangelize about this concept, quite unsuccessfully, I suppose. But there is still some time. We still have probably 3 years or 4 years until some really significant adoption takes place from these large institutions, and then price of Bitcoin won't be available for an individual, and that's very sad to me. So I'm scared. I think we are losing as a group of these 10+ years pseudo-anarchists that came to Bitcoin with a future and hopes that this is going to change the world to the better, because the existing institutions are no better than us. They are all crooked. So exerting control, running open source systems, and participating in peer-to-peer communication layer, which fundamentally Bitcoin is nothing. It's nothing more. It's not an asset. It shouldn't be taxed. It's a currency. It's information.
Definitely.
For sure, in my opinion, yes, I'm with you with the original vision. I'm always arguing about this with everyone. It's my thing as well. Look, I don't know specifically what Bitcoin's future will be, but for sure the legacy is clear. It's like the future of money, tokenization, the ability, the open source, cryptography, all these things to be used by everybody. I think for sure this will stay, whether it's gonna be Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, or or maybe something more evolved even. Who knows? But for sure the history has changed from that point and afterwards, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Just to add more thing, there is still time to come back to Bitcoin. I think many individuals here maybe started in Bitcoin, left to explore different projects. You can build things. You can just do things on Bitcoin. It's not permissive. It allows, you can just fork things, you can just adopt things, and there are hackathons now with these AI agents, AI models. You can literally ship whatever you want to build. On top of it, it's permissionless. People don't have to run your code, but you can just make it and you can run it yourself with your friends, and just, it's very cool to be in that way.
Exactly, the permissionless nature, this was revolutionary. This was the thing that from then on, history has an alternative, you know, to people being bound by just whatever is bestowed to them, you know, by governments.
Yeah, so, you know, like answering the question, I think we will see more all of that we're seeing right now. Yeah. So the option with the Salvador or with the Czech National Bank, that kind of moves will be everywhere. There will be more ETFs, there will be more scams, there will be more shitcoins. It's normal. It will be like that all the more because the adoption will be much more better, because this is what we have with the internet and that informational era that we are living. So all the more of everything. From the Bitcoin side, Tomas, good to mention that right now, okay, I know how the community are built and we need to do the first steps. It's normal. But we already have Ethereum, we all have two L2s, we have other L1s, we have many different opened, more or less open, more permissioned blockchains. We have every that. Right now, we have much more stuff that we have adoption. And Bitcoin, it's one of the ideas behind the monetary system that we right now are able to build application with the Taproot. There is layer 2 Bitcoin Lightning Network, and many different opportunities to be there from the perspective of the monetary aspect or the product system, or even right now the NFTs and meme coins. There is everything. But it's still right now there because the people, the users, the client want that. So remember that you can buy everything and build everything right now. Oh, I'm sorry. But on the end, it's all about the adoption. And if you see Bitcoin like a layer for exchange the value, you will be able to see also the layers for many different things, applications also. So you need to remember that about that monetary aspect and the difference between all the blockchains, that they are all needed. Everybody need to do their steps. Yes, young developers choosing, for example, Solana, because there is a reasons for that. But on the end, when they see the value, they mostly understand also the Bitcoin. So we just need to go that way and just work around and remember the difference and why Bitcoin is and will be digital gold based on the electric energy.
Thank you, guys. Guys, do you know what's interesting these days? Bitcoin. So I think we can conclude our panel. Thank you so much to our speakers. Great debate on banks and Bitcoin, and I hope you will enjoy the rest of the day.